Chris Young with 80/20 CRM. I'm going to show you how to create calculators in your Salesforce platform. Now, calculators are unique to 80/20 CRM, at least this version of them. You may wonder, well, why do I need those? Calculators allow you to apply different cost schedules to different locations, different property types, so that when you are automating that underwriting, you've got really good and strong and solid numbers to run with. So if you're an admin or have the right permission sets, you should see calculators either across the top here or in the more section. You can also hit your app launcher and type in calculators and you might see it there. Let's go ahead and jump into one. So calculators, you can have as many as you'd like, and then users can choose them as they find fitting for the different leads or opportunities they're working. In this case, we're just gonna look at the base template and I'll show you what's in here. All right, within a calculator, you're gonna see a bunch of different sections. Up top, just give it a name. Maybe this is Washington, DC flips, or maybe this is Green Bay novations, or whatever you want to call it. You can have different locations, you can have different asset types, you can have maybe even different clients that you are buying for in specific. And then your targets. What is your minimum gross profit target that you want to hit? Right? Just to give us something to start with. Typically, to understand a max allowable offer, we need to have a couple of set parameters up front. What's the ARV? What are our profit targets? And a few other things to help us start to back calculate to an appropriate max allowable offer. Another one is gross profit margin target. So this is your minimum absolute amount. This is, hey, in a percentage, what am I really targeting? I'd like to get a 10% margin or 15% margin. Usually what the calculators will do is it'll take the max of those two. And then also, if I'm maybe wholesaling or wholetailing, or I'm buying on behalf of an investor, which most of us are, what is their margin target? 10% is a really common rule of thumb, but maybe it's a little less, a little more. And so that's default buyer margin target. So when you're underwriting, you got to make sure there's room in that deal for the next person if you're not flipping it yourself. And then lender cost of capital and LTV. You might wonder, well, why do we need this in our calculator? This one helps us calculate, cost of funds, so holding costs. If I'm rehabbing over 90 days and I took that property down and I have rehab costs, how much am I going to pay in interest to have those funds? That sort of thing. Just make sure we can get that in there. And then commissions and closings. Do your lead managers get a commission, either in percent or dollar amount? Just, is there a standard rate? You can always change these as you're going, but it's good to have something to start with. Same with acquisitions, dispositions, and transaction coordinator. Do those have flat rates or specific commissions that you like to go with? Your retail closing, this is typically 6 to 8%. So, 3 for agents, listing agent and selling agent, and then, 1 to 2 for closing costs. But the ballpark, each different exit strategy is going to have different closings depending on what you're doing with it. Wholesale, for example, you don't have any typically. And so this is just generally what would you put in for a retail closing. Rehab inputs, price per square foot. If you have just, hey, we always go with $20 a foot or $30 a foot, throw that in there and it'll give your team something to start with. And if you want to make sure they're using that number for this calculator, go ahead and check this box. And that's going to make sure that this overrides other numbers. Now, if you forget what we've said, you can always jump into these information icons, and this is a little help text for you. It'll pop open a tooltip which will run you through each of these fields. We've tried to make sure to add detail for each one so that it's easy to look into and know. Now, rehab daily spend, this is going to help us understand duration. And rule of thumb, $1,000 a day if it's a full rehab project is roughly how much you're going to be spending usually. And so if it's a $50,000 rehab, 50 to 60 days, not too uncommon. Or if you have an average turn days here, then throw your average in there. It just all helps us triangulate to getting that hold period. A couple of unique fields here. So there's usually economy of scale in your calculators, right? So up to 1,600 square feet, 2,000 square feet, you're gonna pay a little bit more, but then after that, you get a little bit of a break because you hit economy of scale numbers. So what's that break point look like for you in this market? And then what's the adjustment? In this case, we say, hey, at 2,000 feet, over 2,000 feet, we usually see a reduction of about 20%. Now, I get it's not always that linear of a break or that much of a stair step, but gives us a pretty good approximation. And then the next one is quality. So is this a lower end or average end house, or is this a high end house where we're going to need nicer appliances and nicer finishes? And so that's what this one's all about. What's that price break point in your market, or the market this calculator is for, or even the asset type this is for? And then what's that adjustment factor? So we're going to spend about 30% more going into a higher end home. After that, you start getting into your rehab levels, level 1 and 2. Level 1 is almost nothing needs done except for maybe clean and list. Level 2 is, considered like a wholesale. We're going to clean, maybe a little drywall repair, some paint, clean up some carpet, maybe replace some carpet, and then, list it or try and wholesale it. And so these are pricing for each of those. So cleaning per foot, drywall repair, you'll notice we've tried to mark those, per square foot as well. Interior paint, carpet. And then level 3 is more of a traditional rehab. So this would be, your usual fixtures, floors, appliances, base and trim, and maybe some demo in there if you need to. And so this, again, you've got your pricing schedules. Kitchen's a little different. We have this specific kitchen is, if I just want to put a bulk kitchen in there, so like, hey, most of my level 3s, we just do a kitchen by default. And we always have kind of a base package we put in there. So that's what this is right here, is what would the base package for the kitchen and then the appliances look like. Now, if you don't want to use a whole kitchen, you can always throw in uniquely countertops, cabinets, other items that you're going to have, fixtures, to kind of build out that kitchen a little different. Level 4 takes in landscape and exterior work. So exterior doors, paint, landscape. There's actually exterior cladding too. I just need to throw it into this sandbox. So, are you adding any sort of brick or molding or other vinyl or siding that you need to work on too? Level 5 is more of a full rehab, like, hey, we got to gut this sucker. Or maybe we got to take down walls, or we got to rerun different components. And so this is full drywall, interior doors, cabinets, countertops. And the way the calculators work in the platform is they estimate your takeoff. So they look at your square footage, the house type, they look at the room count or bed bath count, some other details, and they try to approximate plumbing fixtures, electrical fixtures, hard floor, carpeted floor, linear feet of cabinets, square footage of countertops, roof squares, all that fun stuff, number of windows, number of doors. So we try to approximate those takeoffs for you, and then we plug these values in so that we can get as close of a number as possible. So as long as the dollar amounts are close for your market and you've got reasonably close square footage and bed bath count, you should be pretty good getting pretty close on these numbers. This comes from our experience in the construction industry. So maybe some things, our pricing may be a bit off of what you have in your market, but that's why it's here, so you can override those with yours. Additional on here, this is plumbing fixtures per fixture. So sink, vanity, toilet, shower, bib outside, etc. And then additional rehab cost items. So if you have to rehab a bathroom, what's that usually cost you? That again is a bulk cost, like the kitchen. And if there's 3 bathrooms and you put that on there, it's gonna add all 3 of those. Trash out per foot, if a garage door, windows, heater, full electrical, plumbing, framing, etc. So we kind of went from, hey, if you had to rebuild this ground up, starting with the foundation, we didn't add earthwork in here, but starting with the foundation and moving on, what would that look like? So you could really approximate a new build with this too. It's obviously a very simplified form. There's a lot of things missing for a full new build, but simplified version of that. And then development and construction costs. If you're doing land dev, hey, how much does it cost you typically to flip an acre, for example, raw land, bring in entitlements, utilities, or new construction? Say on average, we're going to take this purchase of land and we're going to put a new house on it. we want to approximate what we can pay for it and build a house and make some money. So what's your average new construction fee if you're putting a manufactured home on there? And then how long are those turns? How long is it going to take you to develop the land, new construction, and a manufactured home? I get these are, very general numbers, but helps at least get your team started. So I know that was a little lengthy and in detail on the calculators. Create as many as you want, clone them, they'll become available, and then you can see them, where they've been used. If you have any questions, reach out to us, hit the support, let us know what you've got. Suggestions as well, please keep them coming. This is, Chris Young with 80/20 CRM. I appreciate your time talking about calculators.